Hi there, and welcome to another Views from the Valley, your weekly roundup of the news here in the United States, coming to you from v3.co.uk's offices in San Francisco. With me as ever, Shaun Nichols. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, Ian.
Right, okay. Well, we've had this story in the last couple of Views from the Valley, but let's just bring people up to date on the iPhone. You've been having a look at this.
Yeah, as of early last week, they got the prototype back. The story ran. Figured it was probably just about done.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like there were any serious repercussions for the engineer who lost it, which...
He's kept his job and has been offered an all-expenses flight to Munich to sample the proper beer by Lufthansa, which is kind of cute. And also a job offer from SAP, you said?
No, that was a joke.
Okay.
That was a joke. I have my own opinions about it. I definitely wish him the very best, though, and I think it's really great that he's kept his job, and I think Apple made a really admirable decision to keep him on and not...
It was an astute PR move, and plus, accidents happen, it happens to everyone.
Yeah. So we thought everything was going to be cool and everything was fine, and then earlier this week it took a turn. While Apple hasn't said anything on the matter, the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office has executed a search warrant on the editor of Gizmodo, the blog who purchased the prototype, and now there's been word that the person who found the phone and handed it over to Gizmodo has also been identified, although there's no word on any charges yet. But we're talking about this, it really brings up some interesting legal points.
It does. I mean, the poor devil's had every computer and hard drive in his house taken away, which strikes me as excessive in itself. But it does promote a couple of talking points which we've been going over today, and the press has been going over for the last week. First off, there's two major points. First off, California has shield laws for journalists, which means they don't have to reveal their sources, and the information they use to write stories is protected. So the first question is Gizmodo press or is it a blog? Because, they put themselves out as a blog. They're very,
Yeah, but they're at all the events that we, the same events we cover.
They break
the same access, they break news, they break stories, they broke this piece of news.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have every right to be considered a news source, a media source, and given those same protections, really.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. But then the second question, however, is this crime covered under California shield laws? And it looks like it isn't. Because if something's lost and you know who the owner is and you don't give it back to them, that's technically theft.
Well, yeah, and this is kind of a gray area, because an area that really hasn't been touched on before, because most news outlets and organizations have strict rules. You do not pay sources, you don't pay for information, you don't pay for articles. So this hasn't really come so much with a lot of people. With blogs, there's kind of a looser... The ethics aren't as set in stone.
That's a nice way of putting it, yes.
Yeah, and that I guess that kind of goes back to the debate of whether or not they're press. I still think they're definitely considered press, but...
some are. Gizmodo, yes, I'm with you, but, I'm sorry, extending shield laws to some kid in the back basement or something, then,
Yeah, again, it's a new field, and I think that the ethics has to be something that the blog community has to really work out for themselves and amongst themselves. And I think for the most part they really are. But this is going to be an interesting case that kind of tests some of those things.
I don't know about how they're working this out. I remember when Vista launched and key bloggers got a free laptop with Vista on.
Yeah.
And not all of them disclosed it. These kind of ethical debates in blogging.
But the ones that did were named and shamed, and it was widely acknowledged that they kind of did something shady and something kind of wrong. So, I think that's an area where over the years it's going to work itself out the same way that a lot of journalism worked itself out in the 19th and early 20th
Yes,
century.
Exactly. If you look back at the history of journalism, it's not exactly edifying, if truth be told.
No.
But out of tiny acorn, the mighty oak trees grow and all that. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one because it is looking like it could get really quite serious for Gizmodo. Personally, I think it was a legitimate news story, but whether the handling stolen property thing it's tricky. It really is. So yes, we'll see how this develops. Okay, now on the security side of things, it's been quite a busy week. Obviously in the UK you have info security going on at the moment, and the UK team are covering that very thoroughly. Here we've had a couple of stories over the last day or so. Firstly, some research from Google that's shown that now false antivirus software is increased fivefold last year and is becoming a major problem. Now, you may be familiar with this. It's usually you go onto a site, pop-up window using Java or JavaScript pops up and says, we've detected a virus on your system. It may even give you the operating system of the computer you're using. Download this software, pay $14.95 or whatever for it, and it will rid you of any infections. In actual fact, there are no infections, and generally you're downloading malware with a very, very poor security engine on there. But this is going through the roof. And I mean, you've been seeing a fair amount of this online as well. I mean, it seems to...
Well, yeah, this has been going on for years. I mean, one of my first feature articles, 3 or 4 years ago, way back when I first started, was the huge influx of fake antivirus software that was coming into a lot of download sites. I look at reports, talk to several download sites, and they all say, probably the majority of stuff we get is fake antivirus, pretty much useless crap.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's becoming more popular because you're seeing a lot more efforts to shut down things like phishing, credit card harvesting, that sort of thing. And it seems like Rogue AV is something it's looked on, I think, as it's not considered. I guess it's considered illegal, but it's considered much less severe than.
Yeah. It's not hacking.
It's identity theft, hacking, phishing, that's exploits, that sort of thing.
It's also insanely lucrative. I mean, people actually send you money. There's no need to go through all this sort of money courier and laundering business. It's just like, oh, here's a check. Excellent. So I think this is going to be a major problem for some time to come. But staying on the security field, you've been having a bit of fun at McAfee's expense for most of the last week.
I don't think anybody who was affected by it's having the rival companies. I'm sure Symantec and Trend Micro and F-Secure are all enjoying the heck out of it. But
yes, I imagine F-Secure will be having T-shirts done up about this one.
Yeah, just goes to show that even the legitimate security vendors can have issues. McAfee recently released a signature update, which it's not as big a deal as it's made out to be. But again, if your system is affected, it's kind of a fairly serious issue when your system goes down. Basically, a compatibility issue with their latest, a recent signature update caused Windows XP, SP3 machines in some cases to report a false positive for an infection and then have a system crash, basically, where you had to restart in safe mode, go in manually, take out the update, and replace it. McAfee since pulled the update.
True. And offering compensation.
Yeah, offering compensation, issued a fix for it. But, I mean, it's definitely not something that any company really wants to go through, or any user. I mean, if you're an administrator who had, a couple dozen systems all affected by this, you're understandably more than a little bit upset.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fair. I mean, obviously mistakes happen. McAfee seems to have dealt with it actually fairly well. Full refund if your systems crashed, and of course not many people are actually going to take them up on that, but still. But yeah, in terms of security software, bit of a one in the eye for McAfee, and I think they're going to be pulling back on that one. And then finally, we had an interesting little story yesterday. The Pope has called for Christians everywhere to get online and give the internet a soul. Speaking at a digital conference, Pope Benedict basically made the plea for Christians to get online and fight moral relativism and secularism and that sort of thing, and politely put the Christian viewpoint forward. I did like the fact that he did say politely, though. I mean, there's nothing worse than sort of trolls going onto boards, sort of either pro or anti-religion, and the idea that the Pope is saying he'd look plain nice is actually quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way different religions have handled the internet in different ways. You've seen some religions make very heavy use of it and, using it to spread their message, and
the American Christian churches over here have done a phenomenal job in terms of getting mailing lists and internet forums and that sort of thing. It really is very large, and the atheists, by comparison, are doing virtually nothing online, which is odd considering the scientific bent of most atheists. Haven't seen much in the way of Buddhism. Mormons are big on
Mormons are big on technology. The Scientologists, for one reason or another.
Yeah, well, they've got everywhere. They're like scabies, only less pleasant. I don't know, are we allowed to say that? No, we'll keep it in anyway. We'll see what the Vatican comes out of this. They've obviously had, Benedict's shown himself more tech savvy than most. You can now get a popely thought for the day on your texted to your mobile phone. He's been reaching out to young people to get them online, and basically seems a lot more tech savvy than his predecessor. So we shall see if the Christian armies come online and sort this out. But in the meantime, you can read about these stories and more at www.v3.co.uk. and we'll be back next week.